So panic attacks and anxiety attacks usually occur suddenly and without warning. Sometimes there is an obvious trigger and other times there just is not. So for example, you could be thinking of a party that you need to attend and then you develop this real intense fear which can trigger your amygdala or your fight or flight mode. But that's the negative thinking attached to the worry, and this gives you the anxiety or the panic attack that you have. But sometimes we just do not know what has happened, and the attacks feel like they're just completely coming out of nowhere for no reason at all. Now, anxiety attacks can range in how long they actually last for. They usually peak around 10 minutes, but sometimes, if you're unfortunate, they can last for as long as 25 minutes. Now, it doesn't really matter how long the anxiety attack actually lasts for, whether it's short, whether it's long, the terror is the same. The fear that grips you, it can be really, really severe, and any person can really feel as if they are going to die sometimes, or sometimes they feel they are completely losing control. The physical symptoms are very, very frightening. And some of my clients have actually gone as far as, as to phone the ambulance as they thought they were having a heart attack, because physically your body is reacting in the same way. You have the same heart beating, you have the same tingling in your arms, the same shortness of breath. These are all very, very frightening physical symptoms that you're having. There are other symptoms as well. Some people do start to hyperventilate and they feel like they cannot breathe. That in itself is extremely frightening. Some people feel nauseous. Others get hot flushes and the chills. You can get very intense heart palpitations and severe chest pains, which is why people think they are having a heart attack. Then of course there's trouble breathing, and some people actually feel like they are busy choking. And that comes with feelings of completely losing control, and then comes the shaking and the trembling and the uncontrollable feelings. So these are all very awful feelings, and especially if it makes you feel like you want to go unconscious. And these all come without warning. Now, there are very specific steps that you can take to help with this, and a therapist will help you figure out exactly what your triggers are. What has happened that has made your body go on high alert? What has triggered your amygdala? What has pushed you into the fight, flight, or freeze mode? Something's done it. We need to look at our amygdala as a fire alarm. Why has it triggered? Where is the smoke? What's going on? For some reason, you have set off the alarm. It's a warning. It's a warning to you. Your body is responding to something. Now, some scientists believe that the amygdala and the way that it functions goes all the way back to caveman days. Our ancestors did not have houses as we have today. They lived on the land. They lived in things like caves, or they made grass huts. It's what they had then. Their dangers were very, very different to our dangers. They did not have to worry, for instance, about things that we worry about. So they didn't have to worry about walking across the street and the possibility of being hit by a car if they didn't look, because cars did not exist in those days. Instead, they had other very, very real worries and dangers for their time, such as animals. If a lion came into the village, they had to worry about an attack. A scratch or a bite from a snake, for instance, well, that could be fatal. That could mean someone got really, really very ill. And our ancestors did not have things like hospitals. They didn't have antibiotics or medicines or things that could take away fevers and other illnesses. We take all of those for granted now. The simple thing like paracetamol. They also worried about things like heights, running, not being cautious. Well, that could lead to something fatal like falling off a cliff and then perhaps breaking an arm or a leg. And that would affect how they provided and looked after their family. So these were very, very real problems for our ancestors, but they're not the same problems that we worry about today. Our problems are very different. Some scientists also firmly believe that this protection mechanism has been passed down through the generations. Our bodies still respond in the same way. This is why people today do still have fears of things like heights. People do have fears of animals. When we see a shadow, we jump because we're not expecting a shadow, or if something moves unexpectedly, we don't expect that, so we jump. All of that brings us back to caveman days. Again, movement in the grass. Well, that could potentially save your life. That could be a leopard about to pounce on you. So a shadow, for instance, that could give you a warning that there's an unexpected predator lurking away. So our fight or flight responses do take over. It speeds up our heart rate, all of these things happen inside our body, and we respond very, very quickly to the dangerous situation or the dangerous predator. So you need to respond very, very quickly. You need to either run away, you need to hide, you need to throw a stick in the caveman days. Now, these fight or flight signals are associated with the jumpiness that we have today and our anxiety today. We can get triggered by all sorts of things that are happening. We think about our taxes and our heart starts to pounce. We contemplate how to pay for something or think about money problems and our heart starts to beat really, really fast. But none of these cases is the correct response for our fight or flight. Okay, this is there for a purpose, and even when we get just agitated, our heart starts to beat faster, and it's preparing us for the running part. But where we're going to run to, our anxiety is completely misplaced. It is, however, still a problem, and it is still costing people a lot of anxiety. So let's have a look at another example of a grandmother who has not seen her grandson for a while. She bends down, she's got her arms wide open, and her grandson runs into her arms, and she's holding a little teddy bear. And the grandson's very, very excited to see his grandmother. And he happily runs towards her, and then just before he gets to her, he trips and he falls. Okay, and the grandmother, she picks him up, she gives him a kiss, and she gives him a cuddle, and she wipes the blood on his knee. Now the little boy forgets all about that trip, he forgets all about the fall, and eventually, as he gets older, he forgets about this incident altogether. I mean, children trip and fall and hurt themselves all the time. It's what kids do. But when that same little boy grows up, maybe he's 13 or 14 or so, and he sees perhaps a friend's sister and she's holding a teddy bear, well, then he automatically panics and he goes into a panic attack. And then later, when you ask him why this happened or what happened, he's not able to say. He doesn't actually know. He has no idea why he has reacted as he did. Now later, when this child has grown up to be an adult, his anxiety has increased, and now it's not just only seeing teddy bears that triggers him off. He hates any sort of stuffed toys, he hates any sort of toy shops, and his anxiety increases and gets bigger and bigger, and it affects, when he has a daughter and he wants to buy her a teddy bear, for example. So this is our conscious mind. We might forget while we feel anxious, but our subconscious does not. Our bodies remember, and your body responds and reacts to what it considers to be dangerous and a feared situation. Your amygdala is on high alert, your fight or flight is triggered, and your body responds as if you were in actual physical danger. Just like that little boy, his body responded to that stuffed teddy bear. His body remembered the fall, and the trigger for him is that teddy bear, which he might not know now as an adult. So in my example, the sight of the teddy bear is his trigger, and this is done, the triggers, by any sort of senses that you might ignite. It could be something like a smell, it could be a situation, it could be a expression. All of these kind of things trigger our responses. You may have more than one trigger as well, but with anxiety and with panic, it's all about learning and connecting with your body and how you respond to these situations. Thoughts can trigger you, emotions can trigger you. So you should be able to put this all together when you work with your therapist and look at exactly how you're getting triggered and how your body is responding. What is happening internally within you that is triggering your responses? Anxiety can be displayed in various forms. We get generalized anxiety. It can come through as OCD, panic disorder, fears, phobias, PTSD, social anxiety as well. These all teach your body that what you think is dangerous is not actually dangerous. And the only way to work on this is to expose yourself to the threat. So throughout the CBT program that I provide, and throughout the CBT steps that any therapist will give you, you work on connecting your thoughts, your emotions, and your body's reactions. I hope this has helped.